Oh, you thought I was hyperbolizing. Oh, you thought I was joking. No, I am not. Stuart Skinner, everybody. This is our topic. But before we get into that, let's talk about the guy that he is facing on the other side. Because StatCenter tweeted this out earlier this afternoon. Standing on his head to help the Canucks grab a 4-3 win on Sunday night's Game 3 win versus the Oilers, despite them getting outshot 45-18 along the way, Arturs Silovs recorded an impressive save total that sits tied behind only 4 on this Stanley Cup playoff list of rookie goalies. Most saves by a rookie, regulation win on the road. Arturs Silovs is there with 42, tied with Pat Riggin and Ken Reggett, right behind Ryan Miller, Gary Innes, Peter Mrazek, and Ken Dryden. He's got 42, the other guys on top of him have 43, 43, 44, and 46 saves. Arturs Silovs is literally cementing himself as one of the best rookie goalies the playoffs has ever seen. And it gets crazier when you acknowledge the guy on the other side. Stuart Skinner is equally bad. The magnitude as to how good Silovs is perfectly mirrored by the poor performance of Stuart Skinner. And we've got a bunch of tweets to go out there and talk about this. This is actually what happened at the end of the game yesterday. Stuart Skinner was not made available to the media by Oilers postgame to speak. He played at the end. He didn't talk. Is the pressure getting to the team and the goalie? You've got to wonder. Now, to Stuart Skinner's credit, he did go out there and speak to the media this morning. He apologized, actually, at the beginning of his presser, saying, yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't able to talk to you guys yesterday. He said pretty much it was like an emotional time and things just weren't really right, so he apologized, the media forgave him, and then they talked. Stuart Skinner's a pretty good interview, honestly. Like, not gonna lie, he had some really good answers to all the questions. It was like a 6-minute long press conference there. But in regards to Stuart Skinner and his on-ice performance, this is sort of where we get down this track here. Stuart Skinner's .881 career playoff save percentage is the lowest of any goalie with 20-plus games played since the 2005 lockout. It's the second lowest of any goalie since 1990, though. The worst was Dan Cloutier's .872. Okay, what exactly does this mean? This means that Stuart Skinner is literally the worst playoff goaltender of our generation. If you have this filter of 20-plus games played on the stat card there. Let's go over to another tweet. Big Head Hockey tweeted this out. Stuart Skinner in this series against the Canucks, 43 saves on 54 shots. A .796 save percentage, 5.27 more goals allowed than expected. Is Edmonton running with Skinner all playoffs? Now, this number is the one that we need to really talk about more. 5.27 more goals allowed than expected. When it comes to the averaged out percentile chances of the shots that come Stuart Skinner's way, he's letting in 5.27 more goals compared to some of these shots that he should be saving. Essentially, you want this number to be negative. You want to be able to save more goals than you're actually allowing, but Stuart Skinner has allowed 5 more, and the .796 save percentage, 54 shots against, and what is that? 11 goals against. That does not make it seem any better whatsoever. You also had yourselves this tweet by StatCenter, given the hook after making only 11 saves on 15 shots in a Game 3 loss to the Canucks last night. Oilers goalie Stuart Skinner saw his career playoff save percentage drop to .881 through 20 games played. With it, he sits tied behind just 6 shaky marks on this list of netminders. And if you look at the number here are the lowest playoff save percentages for the first 20 career games for goaltenders since 1980. Stuart Skinner is tied for 7th worst. You want to talk about being the worst one since 2005, the second worst one since the 90s, and the 7th worst one since the 80s when everything was going in. Stuart Skinner is literally putting up 80s bad record goaltending. He is tied with Murray Bannerman and Chris Terreri for 7th worst in lowest playoff save percentage in their first 20 games since the 80s. Arturs Irbe is 1, Rolly Melanson's number 2. Kind of weird that Melanson is that bad, considering he was the Canucks goalie coach for a while, I'm pretty sure. Brian Hayward is over here, Dan Cloutier, Mike Liut, Pete Peters. very creative name over there, and then Stuart Skinner. So he is literally putting up some of the worst goaltending we have seen in the playoffs in decades. Here's another tweet that goes out there and talks about this. Stuart Skinner has allowed 12 goals in the first 3 games of the second round series versus the Canucks. 7 of the 12 have been low-quality shot attempts on net, with a less than 5% goal probability at the time of release. So exactly what we had just talked about. Some of these shots that Skinner is letting in are shots that should not be going in. And when it comes to most goals allowed versus low-quality shots in the playoffs, Stuart Skinner is number 1 by a long shot. He's got 13. Georgiev has 9, Bobrovsky has 9, Oettinger has 8. So Stuart Skinner is literally like giving wins to the Vancouver Canucks based off of some of the goals that he is allowing. And it's not even just that, because if you take a look at this, Stuart Skinner has made 20 postseason appearances. His career playoff save percentage is .881. It's the worst of any Oilers goalie to play even one full game. For all his regular season value, and it's real, especially given Campbell's implosion, can you keep him in net? Here's the full list of goaltender save percentages in NHL history. If you scroll here, the number 1 guy out of everybody who has played in the playoffs with a minimum of 20 career games played, it's Tim Thomas. Of course it is. That guy went out there and dominated the playoffs in 2011, and he's always been a beast, but he's the number 1 save percentage goalie out of everybody in terms of 20-plus career games. If you scroll down over here past the Varlamovs and the Jimmy Howards and the Ottingers and the Martin Joneses, go over to the part of the list where they actually have not even tracked save percentage, you'll see that the worst ones of all time goes Rolly Melanson, Mario Lessard, Gary Desjardins, Brian Hayward, Dan Cloutier, Murray Bannerman, Rick Wamsley, Greg Stefan, Vincent Rando, Dan Bouchard, Pete Peters, Glenn Healy, and then you have Stuart Skinner. He is one of the worst playoff save percentage goalies of all time. There are 135 playoff goalies who have played 20-plus games who have their names tracked over here, and Stuart Skinner is just barely outside the top 12. He's the 12th worst goalie of all time in the playoffs, and you're going to have to scroll a lot to find another guy who's actually active and on this list. Stuart Skinner is 123rd. The next active player is Elias Samsonov, who is 94th. He had a 901 in 22 games played. And then next up, it's actually Sergei Bobrovsky, so interesting to see him be on this list, considering the year that he just had. And then you go into the more modern names, Grubauer, Bennington, Hellebuck, Fleury, Rantanen, Markstrom. These are all guys that are active and kind of in that mid-territory of goaltender save percentages, but literally Stuart Skinner is the 12th worst here on the entire list of overall goalies save percentages from all-time lists. Some of these guys are from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Gary Desjardins was born in the 40s, and this is one of the only guys worse than Stuart Skinner. Where exactly do the Oilers go with their goaltending situation? I, for one, would love to see Stuart Skinner start back up in the next game. Give it to him. Don't go to Cal Pickard. Give it to Stuart Skinner one more time, baby. Because, of course, I'm a Canucks fan and I want to see my team win. But obviously, you know, there's a certain dynamic here where Oilers fans are kind of feeling that their team might be actually afraid to start Calvin Pickard. It's kind of the same thing that happened last year, right? From Soup to Skinner, Skinner to Soup, the entire Vegas Golden Knights series where they got stonewalled by a third-string goalie in Aiden Hill. Are you saying that the exact same thing is happening here against the Vancouver Canucks and Arturs Silovs? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire Stuart Skinner argument and how he has been technically the 12th worst goalie of all time in the playoffs and the worst one in the modern era by far, second worst since the 90s, and 7th worst since the 80s. He is one of the worst, and I did not hyperbolize in the title of this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.